You know, as I prepared for this sermon, I had two different sermons that I wanted to do. The problem was which one. But then I decided just to smush them together, realizing that they were actually kind of related. So it was easy enough to do. Plus it made it a little longer, which is sometimes hard to do. So first I want to ask you a question. How many here know of a person who's constantly negative? And by negative, I don't mean they're bad people, but they're just people who always discuss what is worst about their lives. Or they always want to talk about the bad things around them. It can be that the neighborhood is going downhill, their health is terrible, or the government is going so poorly that there is no hope. And we all know them, and some of us are occasionally them. I mean, we all do it. Oh, it's hopeless, things are going terrible, yada, yada, yada. And we just get really negative. So this is kind of what I want to talk to you about today. But I also want to talk to you about living in the now. We all tend to hold on to things from the past, or worry about the future. But I say that we need to live for today. I know it sounds kind of cliche, live for today, not for tomorrow or yesterday, but first let's talk about living for today. One of our weaknesses as humans is that we tend to look back. We look back on the good old days, and we fret that it will never be as good as the good old days, because it's never as good as the good old days. But the problem is, our parents said the same thing, their parents said the same thing. It's never as good as the good old days. Sooner or later, you go back to the Middle Ages and the bubonic plague, and it's much better than then. So, it's always going to be, the good old days were better. But sometimes we look back on our mistakes, and we regret them, and we just dwell on the mistakes we've made. And either way, we are frequently found looking back. The problem with looking back is there's nothing you can do about it. The past is the past. That's why we call it that. It's over. It's done. Dwelling on those times will do you no good. Whether it's the feeling of nostalgia about the good old days, that'll just leave you depressed about today. Or looking back on your mistakes. And look at what that did for Lot's life. Lot's wife. That makes a little difference there when I say the right word. Lot's wife, she looked back. And what did it cost her? It cost her everything. But when we look back, it's just a mistake to look back on these, especially our mistakes. Our mistakes were forgiven on the cross. We've been pardoned our mistakes, so why dwell on them? Let them go. If there's ever an example of this, look to Paul. Paul, of all people, had mistakes he could look back on. He used to persecute the church, and yet was forgiven and turned to a life of preaching. He preached God's word after persecuting Christians. You can't go look back on anything a little more rough than that, I don't think. But do you think he let his past haunt him? He didn't let his past haunt him. He moved forward. In Philippians 3:13 it says, "Say, brethren, I count not myself to have been apprehended. But this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. To dwell on these things will only bring you down." And it gives you that feeling that you'll never truly forgive yourself. You'll never forgive yourself for these mistakes if you just dwell on them. So let them go. If Paul can let go of his mistakes, we all can, because God forgave us of our mistakes. And we have to let go of the past. Some of the things in the past, we can learn from it, definitely. But let it go. It's over. It's done. We can't go back to it. We can't go fix things. We can't bring back the good things that were like that. You can try, but it's not going to do us any good. And then there's those of us who worry about the future, who constantly stress the future. We even fear the future. We're worried so much about what tomorrow might bring. We worry ourselves sick. We may worry about our jobs. We worry about the government. Again, notice the government keeps coming up here. But we worry about what others will think of us even if we say the wrong thing. That's a horrible thing. Oh my goodness, what if I say the wrong thing? I'll offend them. Or they may never speak to me again. There's so much worrying that it prevents us from enjoying today. We need to place these worries in God's hands, because He promised in Philippians 4:4-7, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again I say rejoice. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." Remember, the Lord goes before you in everything you do. Everything we do, He's there before us. Even when bad things happen, the Lord has a plan. And guess what? It's inevitable when bad things happen. We can't do anything about it anyway. So to worry on it will only bring you down further. Now, I'm not saying don't plan for the future. We always plan for the future. But don't worry about it all the time. Don't worry the future. You make a plan and place it in God's hand and let it go with that. He's got it. There's nothing we can do about it. The future is going to happen inevitably. And bad things are going to happen inevitably. And we got two options when the bad things happen. We can keep going, keep plugging away at it and stress ourselves sick. Or we can try to make the most of it and get through it and get it over with and make it the past. And then we forget about it. So for our past, we have the Lord's pardon. And for the future, we have His presence because He's here with us constantly. What more do we need? So now I want to talk about something else. Talk about positivity. Because this is something I'm trying to make a change in my own life on this one. We've eliminated all our reasons for negativity in our past and in our future. Because we've already talked about that. The past is over. God forgave us. We've been pardoned. And we can't go back. And the future is in God's hands. So while we can prepare for it and work hard for it, it's in God's hands, so there's no point stressing it. But we find negativity in today. We'll find negativity in everything. The weather's miserable outside. If there was anything for negativity, you look out that window, look up at the gray sky and the mist coming down and the fact that it's maybe 40 degrees out, and we'll find negativity in that. But we all woke up this morning. We all came here into church to be amongst other Christians. We all sat and had a cup of coffee this morning. I'm assuming almost everybody here had a cup of coffee this morning. I know I had 2.5, 3. But we all had these great things when you think about it for us. But we'll still find negativity in a day. When we leave here today, it's going to happen. But we know there are people who will just think of whatever is happening right now as bad. Or their life in general stinks. And we all fall for that now and then. And sometimes we're just not content unless we're complaining. Right? What do we enjoy doing most? When we get around other people, we gripe. We complain about things. We complain about work. We complain about getting up in the morning. Oh, I woke up this morning. Wait a minute. Why are we unhappy about that? We woke up this morning. That's a good start. But we all know that sometimes we get each other down with our complaints. We complain about our aches. We complain that everything is terrible. But what is this negativity accomplishing in our lives? Do we do it to bring other people down? Because that's what usually happens. But when we're feeling negative, are you really trying to bring others down? I don't think we're trying to bring others down. We're complaining, but I don't think our whole goal is to say, oh, I'm miserable, I'm going to make you miserable. I hope not. If there is anybody like that, please let me know and I will make sure to steer clear. Because I don't want to be miserable. I just have a hard time believing that's the case. Is it meant to invoke pity? Do we do it to get others to feel sorry for us? I could see that being the intended outcome. We all do that. We get to work and we complain about how bad we have it. Why? Because we want somebody to feel sorry for us. I could definitely see that being the case. Anybody else here think that's probably the case? Why we complain to others? It's the only reason I can think why we really complain to others, unless we think they can fix it for us, which most times we're not talking to the right person, because you don't want to complain to the right person who can fix it for you, because it's probably your boss and you don't want them to hear you complaining. So we complain to our friends, hoping they'll feel sorry for us. But the problem is, it usually doesn't work. Because guess what? They have their own problems. They have problems of their own, so they're not feeling sorry for us. They're feeling sorry for themselves still. And thinking probably they're going to try to one-up you even. Oh, you think you got it bad? Listen to this. We do that all the time. We try to one-up each other. But honestly, if you aren't trying to one-up each other, what else do you try to do when that person tries to complain to you and stuff like that? What do you do for the rest of the day? You steer clear of them. You're like, oh man, they're miserable. I don't want to be around somebody who's miserable. Usually that's what it does. It gives the other person a reason to avoid you. No one wants to be around a person who's always bringing them down, who's just dragging them down into negativity. We avoid that person. But the sad thing is, what do we do with the person who's always upbeat and happy-go-lucky? We avoid them too. Let's be honest. Why do we avoid the person who's trying to bring us up? There's something wrong with that when I think about it. It's like, wait a minute. I avoid the person who's negative because he kind of gets on my nerves and drags me down and makes me miserable. But that person who's always upbeat, for some reason I let that drive me nuts. And I'm like, oh, what is your problem, dude? Why are you so upbeat all the time? You're just aggravating me and I just want to... But there's something just essentially wrong with that. If a person who's usually in a good mood and tries to bring others up around them, why do we avoid that person? That's That's not the person to avoid. That's the person we should try to be around. So they can bring us up too, and maybe we'll stop feeling sorry for ourselves. It makes no sense. I saw a quote the other day, and I really like this quote. I'd never heard of this gentleman. A gentleman by the name of Brennan Manning. He was an author and a priest who was born in the Depression era of New York City. There's a time to be down. He enlisted in the Marines and served in Korea, returning to join seminary school. He said, "In every encounter, we either give life or we drain it. There is no neutral exchange." To me, this was such a perfect quote. That actually just hit me, and I kind of thought on that quote for a while. When you interact with somebody else, you have two options, and that's it. You can pick them up, or you can pull them down. There's no other option, really, as every conversation, every interaction, every time we even see another person and you look at them, you have an effect on them. If you look at somebody in the store, when you walk by somebody and you say, "How you doing?" Or you smile at them, you pick them up a little bit. Or you look at somebody and you see their kids are driving them nuts and the kids are driving you nuts, which we all see, and my own kids are guilty of it. And you just look at them and go, "Get control of your kid." What do you think they're thinking? They see that in you and you bring them down because they either think, "Well, I can't control my own kid. I must be a failure." There's no neutral. There's no in between. You don't look at somebody and just have no expression and think that's going to be neutral, because then they're going to look at you and go, "What's their problem?" There's nothing. You can pick them up or you can pull them down. So the question is, which person do you want to be? The Bible tells us the exact same thing as Brennan Manning, just in different words. Proverbs 17:22 says, "A joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones." That sums it up exactly the same as the other way. A little more graphic, but it sums it up. A joyful spirit is great for us. Somebody who tries to pick you up, try to keep you positive, it's good for you. But that person who's just grumpy, constantly grumpy, it dries you out. Kind of sucks the life out of you. Dries the bones. So I think one of my previous messages, I talked about how good we truly have it. When I discussed how few people in this world have homes, food, amenities that we have. Think about some of the commercials you watch, just the little commercials. We try not to look at them, the ones with starving children in other countries, and how the bowl of rice is so great for them, or they're covered in flies. We don't like to look at it, because it's terrible to think about it. But when you think about it, how can we be so miserable? Think about how good we really have it. We have it pretty good. We go home and we post on Facebook when we're grumpy. Can you imagine if people in these other countries saw that? "Oh man, I went to a restaurant and the service was lousy." They'd probably want to reach up and sock you one, because you're being negative about something that you have it so good. So even when things are going bad for us, we have to remember that we have it so good. We can get stressed at work, and we can worry about what we're going to do in the future. We're always going to worry about it. We're always going to get stressed out. It's never going to go away. Like I said before, Christianity is not the magic snake oil or the magic wand that's going to cure what ails you. It just doesn't do that. It promises you eternal life. That's it. No one says it's going to make life more comfortable. If anything, it makes life a little harder because you have higher expectations to live up to. And I think this is one. I can tell you right now, I worry about my future. Next year, I'm going to retire from the Army, but the Army just said I got to move again. Again. Now, I'm hoping he's going to let that go. He told me he's not going to make me move. But I have to trust this other gentleman to stick to his word. But I decided, you know what? I'm not going to stress it. I'm going to stick with my plan. Trust God with it. I'm not going to trust this other gentleman to stick with his word. I'm going to trust God to put the courage and conviction in this man to stick with his word. And if God doesn't put that conviction in his heart, well, then there's a reason for it. He must want me to go where I don't think I want to go. But I just got to trust God with it. Wherever he sends me is going to be what he plans. May not be what I think is going to happen. So why stress it and let it get me down? It'll get me down at times, sure. I guarantee it. We all get down at times. It's perfectly understandable. But we just got to pray to God, put it in his hands, let it go. Worrying over it anyway won't make it better, won't make it go away. So just make the most of it. I mean, we can plan and we can prepare, but there is no guarantee. There's no guarantee we'll even be here tomorrow. People don't see what's going to happen. People don't see storms coming and stuff like that. It happens. So stressing over it won't do any good. We might as well enjoy the moment and try to help others do the same. That's a big one in me, I think. Help others enjoy the moment. Do whatever you can to pick others up along the way. As a Christian, it's our responsibility to live a joyous life. How many times do we hear joy in the Bible? We just sang, shout to the world, or shout in joy. I'm forgetting the title of it right now. Shout to the Lord, thank you. I was like, wow, I can't think of it right now. And that was one of my favorite ones in Afghanistan. And even better, he makes me glad. So he does, he makes us glad. We just have to remember it. We're told to go out and make disciples of the world. But are we going to do that if we're negative and dragging others down? We're not going to make disciples. Who's going to want to join the church if it's a grumpy, miserable place? If we all come in here and, I wouldn't come in here. I'd be like, nah, I'm good, thanks. I'll sleep in. I'll drink more coffee. I'll do something. But I don't want to be around that. I want to be around people who are going to have fun. That's why I come in here and I joke and laugh. And even when things go wrong, like setting up the videos and starting the music, what's the most we can do? We can laugh at it and have fun with it. So, will we get others to join us if they see that our lives are enjoyable? If we have fun in here, and we enjoy each other's company, and we joke around? Certainly. I found another quote from Brennan Manning. I actually like this guy. I got to get one of his books somewhere. The greatest single cause of atheism in the world today is Christians who acknowledge Jesus with their lips and walk out the door and deny him by their lifestyle. Can't say much more than that. We can't walk out that door and not be the person we are in here. And we tend to do that. We all become a different person when we walk out that door. And it's natural. We're going to do it to an extent. But we have to try our hardest to be the same person in here or the same person out there that we are in here. Try our hardest to be that same person. And it's not easy. It's not easy to forgive. You're driving down the road and that person cuts you off. You want to lay in the horn, you grit your teeth, and you just want to wave at them, not with a full hand. But what do? You got to do, you just like, I'm going to let it go. I'm not hurt. He's pulling away at some horrible speed, but I'm not hurt. Yeah, he cut me off, but I'm fine. So I got two options. I can get mad at him, or I can give praise that I'm not hurt and he's driving away. And I can maybe get a little upset, brush it off, and drive on. Maybe turn up the music a little bit. Turn on the happy station. Everybody's heard that happy song? The new happy song. Everybody heard that? I like that song. Katrin can't stand it. I play it just to torture her now because that makes me happier. Yeah, I'm dragging her down a little bit doing it, but the other kids laugh about it. Colleen loves it and she dances to it, so we have fun with it. But as we leave here today, I ask that each of us not hold on to the past and not fret the future. Prepare for it, but don't worry. When the day is over, bury it. Bury it behind you so it won't be a burden to you, no matter how bad that day was. Do like a dog, like they say. Kick a little dirt on it and walk away. As for the future, remember, the Lord goes before you in everything that you do. So what is there to worry about? As we said before, we don't know what tomorrow brings. We have no idea, so why worry about it? Why stress it? Lastly, be positive. Try to bring others up around you, rather than bring them down. Have positive interactions with people. Like I said before, in every encounter, we either give life or we drain it. So there's no neutral exchange. So remember, it is a far greater gift to give life than to drain it, obviously. I guess to sum up this message in a nutshell is don't be a party pooper, right? Don't be the party pooper. Be the fun guy or girl. Be the one others want to be around. Not the one who's sulking in the corner and miserable. Be the one that's out having fun and active and honestly enjoying life. And that's what I think we forget sometimes, that we have to enjoy life, regardless of what's dished out at us. We can try our best to make it the best we can, and then we place it in God's hands and we go for broke and enjoy it. I know I've made a pledge to make my life more positive, and Ruthie's doing it, and I hope others do it too. I know there's a lot of people who do it. I hear about the Tops Club, and they go out walking, and that's an attempt to make your life better, to make your life more positive, because you feel better. You exercise. My father, he's 75. Yes, I want to get that wrong. 75, but he lifts weights. He's legally blind, but he lifts weights for a couple hours a day. And then he calls me and brags about it. How many thousands of pounds he lifted, because he likes to add it all up and make it cumulative. But it's great because it makes him feel better. It makes him positive. A little bit more. But I mean, we need to do these things that make us more positive. Everybody in here has something they enjoy. Ruthie enjoys sewing. Anita enjoys sewing and crocheting. To me, that thought's torturous. No, I would lose my mind and twitch. But do what you do that makes you more positive. Do what you enjoy doing. Some of us it's exercise, some of it's running. Yes, Kate?
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
There's power in the tongue, and we have a way of writing unseen laws when we speak. So if you speak negatively, it's going to happen. Oh, I'm going to lose this. I won't win. Well, guess what? You aren't going to lose. You aren't going to win. But if you say, I am going to win, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to do it. You might not do it all the time, but you're speaking it, and that's what comes out. So when you speak positive, more positive things are going to happen in your life than negative.
Definitely. I mean, you can't always expect the best of everything because, well, then you'll get let down a lot. But you make the most of everything and you expect that, hey, I'm going to do this. I may not be the best at it that there ever was, because odds are we won't, but I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to make the most of the moment.
Look at Job. You know, if he would have got down, you know, what did he do? God told his friends to give him, you know, 7 rams, 7 bulls, and what did he do? He put them on the altar. He says, I'm going to worship God no matter how bad it gets.
And no one was dealt a worse hand than that I can
right.
think of.
And he got double in the end.
And still kept his faith.
Yeah.
So with that today, as we leave here today, I just ask that everybody try to be a little more positive. Try to, when you encounter somebody else, give life. Don't drain it. Amen.